The smell hit her first. Bleach mixed with something worse. Something that made her stomach turn. Mackenzie Sawyer's knees scraped against the cold bathroom tile as Bryce Caldwell gripped her hair, forcing her head down toward the toilet bowl. Water splashed. Laughter echoed off the walls. 23 students watched through their phones. Streaming live. "Drink it," Bryce commanded, his voice sharp as broken glass, "or I swear to God, you're gonna wish you never saw what you saw." Mackenzie's whole body shook. Her fingers clawed at the porcelain, trying to push back, but Hunter Reeves held her wrists behind her back. The water was inches from her face now, yellow, disgusting. She could see tissue floating on the surface. "Please," she whispered, "please don't do this." But they did. If you're feeling that rush of what's going to happen next, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you want to share where you're watching from, drop it in the comments below. For those who want to support more stories like this one, there's a thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me bring you more inspiring tales of courage and standing up for what's right. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. 4 months earlier, Mackenzie had been invisible, just another quiet sophomore at Ridgemont High School in Denver, Colorado. She ate lunch alone behind the science building, reading chemistry textbooks her mother had left behind. Nobody bothered her. Nobody even knew her name. That Tuesday changed everything. She'd found a new spot to eat, a quiet corner behind the maintenance shed where the janitors stored equipment. The September air felt cool against her skin as she unwrapped her sandwich. Tuna on wheat. Same thing every day. She opened her mother's old pharmaceutical journal, losing herself in formulas and molecular structures. Then she heard voices. Low. Urgent. 50 grand this month alone, someone said. These rich kids can't get enough. Mackenzie froze. Through a gap in the fence, she saw them. Bryce Caldwell, captain of the lacrosse team, counting a thick stack of bills. Hunter Reeves stood beside him, holding a plastic bag filled with orange pills. Adderall, enough to supply half the school. "My dad's getting suspicious," Hunter muttered. "Says the team's playing too aggressive." Bryce laughed. "Your dad's an idiot. We're undefeated because of this stuff. Every college scout in the state wants me. You think I'm stopping now?" A twig snapped under Mackenzie's foot. Both boys turned. Their eyes locked onto hers through the fence gap. Time stopped. Mackenzie's sandwich fell from her hand. "Well, well," Bryce said, his smile spreading like poison. "Looks like we have a witness." She ran, or tried to. Hunter was faster, cutting her off at the building's corner. Bryce approached from behind, casual as a tiger stalking prey. "I won't tell anyone," Mackenzie said, her voice barely a whisper. "I promise I didn't see anything." Bryce studied her face. 6'2", muscles carved from 3 years of varsity sports, eyes cold as winter. "You know what I believe you? Because you're smart. And smart girls know what happens to snitches." He stepped closer. She could smell his cologne. Expensive, sharp. "But here's the thing," he continued. "I don't like loose ends. So you're going to do exactly what I say, when I say it, or everyone's going to find out about your little family secret." Mackenzie's blood turned to ice. "What secret?" Bryce pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Her grandmother's medical license from 40 years ago, revoked for unauthorized pharmaceutical distribution. "Funny thing about small towns," Bryce said, "records last forever. Your sweet old grandma was dealing drugs before it was cool. What would happen if the whole school knew? If her church knew? if her bridge club found out their favorite member was a criminal. That's not true, Mackenzie said. She was helping people who couldn't afford. I don't care. Bryce pocketed his phone. Here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna keep your mouth shut. You're gonna stay away from me and my business. And if you're very, very good, maybe I'll forget you exist. But if you slip up even once... He didn't need to finish. The threat hung in the air like smoke. That night, Mackenzie told her grandmother she'd fallen during gym class. The bruises on her arms were already turning purple. Her grandmother, 82 years old, with hands that still smelled like the healing herbs she grew in their backyard, believed her, or pretended to. You need to be more careful, sweetheart, she said, dabbing arnica cream on the marks. Your body is precious. It's all we have. Mackenzie wanted to tell her everything. About Bryce, about the drugs, about the photo. But she couldn't risk it. Her grandmother had raised her after the car accident took her parents. She'd given up everything to care for a granddaughter she barely knew. Mackenzie wouldn't let Bryce destroy her too. The harassment started small. Deleted assignments from her Google Drive. Books knocked from her hands. Yogurt accidentally spilled on her clothes. Always when teachers weren't looking. Always with that same cold smile from Bryce. Oops, Piper Thornton would say. Bryce's girlfriend, with perfect blonde hair and designer everything. So clumsy of me. 2 weeks in, they escalated. Mackenzie found herself locked in the cafeteria freezer during lunch. 2 hours in sub-zero temperatures before a janitor heard her pounding on the door. Her lips were blue. Her fingers couldn't stop shaking. The security footage from that day mysteriously corrupted. No evidence, no proof. You should transfer, Piper whispered to her the next day. Bryce doesn't like unfinished business. And trust me, you don't want to be his business. But where could she go? Ridgemont was the only school in their district. Private school cost $30,000 a year. Her grandmother survived on Social Security and the vegetables she grew in their garden. The third week brought chemistry class, Mackenzie's sanctuary, the one place where she felt in control. Mrs. Peterson was explaining molecular bonds when Hunter accidentally knocked over a beaker of hydrochloric acid. It splashed across Mackenzie's desk, eating through her notebook, her textbook. 6 months of careful notes. So sorry, Hunter said, not looking sorry at all. Guess you'll have to start over. Mrs. Peterson made him pay for the damaged books. But the message was clear. Nowhere was safe. Her grandmother noticed the changes. How Mackenzie stopped eating. How she jumped at every sound. How she spent hours in the basement, reading her mother's old pharmacy journals by candlelight. What's troubling you, child? She asked one evening, stirring a pot of her special tea, chamomile, valerian root, and something else that made the whole kitchen smell like earth and rain. Nothing, Grandma, just school stress. Her grandmother's eyes, still sharp despite her age, didn't believe it, but she'd learned long ago that some truths came in their own time. The fourth week, Bryce got creative. Mackenzie discovered he'd hacked into her medical records, found her severe peanut allergy. The next day, her lunch was contaminated, EpiPen administered in the nurse's office, ambulance ride, 3 hours in the emergency room while her throat slowly opened enough to breathe. Anaphylactic shock, the doctor told her grandmother. She's lucky someone called 911 so quickly. Bryce had called. Of course he had. Can't have a murder on school grounds. Bad for business. I'm switching your lunch period, her grandmother said that night. And I'm packing your food myself from now on. but Mackenzie knew it wouldn't matter. Bryce owned the school. His father donated $100,000 every year. The principal smiled whenever he walked by. Teachers looked the other way. Even the security guards knew better than to interfere with Ridgemont's golden boy. Week 5 arrived like a storm. Mackenzie had started eating in the library, hidden between dusty shelves of books nobody read. She thought she was safe. She was wrong. "There you are," Bryce's voice cut through the silence. "We've been looking everywhere for you." 6 of them this time: Bryce, Hunter, Piper, and 3 others from the lacrosse team. They surrounded her table, blocking every exit. "Today's special," Bryce announced. "See, my followers have been asking for new content, and you're going to be the star." He pulled out his phone. The others did the same. 6 cameras pointed at her face. "Stand up," he ordered. Mackenzie's legs felt like water. She stood anyway. "Now you're going to follow us, quietly, or I post Grandma's criminal record on every social media platform in Colorado. Your choice." They led her through empty hallways. Classes were in session. Nobody saw them enter the boys' bathroom on the 3rd floor. The one that hadn't been renovated yet. The one with broken stalls and peeling paint and toilets that barely flushed. "Kneel," Bryce commanded. Mackenzie's knees hit the tile. The smell made her gag. Urine, feces, decades of neglect. "Closer," Hunter said, pushing her head down. The toilet bowl loomed before her. Brown stains ringed the porcelain. The water was yellow, clouded with things she didn't want to identify. Tissue paper floated on the surface like dead fish. "Here's the game," Bryce explained, his camera steady. "You're gonna drink. Just one sip, nice and slow so everyone can see. Or I destroy your grandmother's life. What's it gonna be?" 23 students watched the live stream. Comments poured in. Laughing emojis, fire symbols. Some telling Bryce to stop. Most telling him to continue. Mackenzie's tears fell into the bowl, creating tiny ripples. Her whole body shook. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. 10 seconds, Bryce counted. 9, 8. She thought of her grandmother, sweet, kind, healing everyone she met with herbs and love. She thought of her parents, dead these past 3 years. She thought of the chemistry books in her basement, the formulas she'd memorized, the knowledge that flowed through her bloodline. 3, 2. Her lips touched the water. The taste hit immediately. Salt. Ammonia. Something thick and wrong that coated her tongue. She gagged, pulled back, but Hunter forced her down again. "Swallow," Bryce commanded, "or we do this again tomorrow." She swallowed. The liquid burned down her throat. Her stomach convulsed. Vomit rose, mixed with toilet water, spilled across the floor. The cameras kept rolling. "Beautiful," Bryce said. "Absolutely beautiful." They left her there, curled on the bathroom floor, shaking and sobbing and covered in her own sick. The live stream ended, but the damage was done. 23 witnesses, soon to be hundreds, then thousands. Mackenzie dragged herself to the sink, rinsed her mouth until her gums bled, splashed water on her face, trying to wash away the shame. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Hollow eyes, pale skin, a broken girl pretending to be whole. But something else stared back too, something her grandmother would recognize, something that had been sleeping in her blood, waiting for the right moment to wake up. It took her an hour to make it home. Every step felt like drowning. Her grandmother was in the garden, harvesting late-season herbs. She looked up, saw Mackenzie's face. and knew. "Oh, child," she whispered. "What have they done to you?" Mackenzie collapsed in her arms. The whole story poured out. Bryce, the drugs, the harassment, the toilet, everything. Her grandmother held her, rocked her like she had when Mackenzie was small, and nightmares came calling. When the tears finally stopped, she led Mackenzie inside, made her special tea, added extra valerian for the shaking. "I wanted to protect you," her grandmother said, "from the family curse, from what we are." "What do you mean?" Her grandmother disappeared into her bedroom, returned with a leather journal, pages yellow with age. "Your mother wasn't just a pharmacist. Neither was I. We come from a long line of healers, women who understood plants in ways others couldn't, who could cure or cause." She opened the journal. Handwritten formulas filled every page, not modern chemistry, something older, deeper. "They called us witches once," her grandmother continued. "Burned us, drowned us. So we learned to hide, to use our gifts quietly, carefully. Your mother was learning the old ways when she died. I thought the knowledge would die with me." Mackenzie studied the pages. Some formulas she recognized, others seemed impossible. Plants that shouldn't work together, reactions that defied modern science. "Why are you showing me this now?" Her grandmother's eyes hardened. "Because sometimes, cheat, healing means removing the poison first." That night, Mackenzie couldn't sleep. She went to the basement, found her mother's books, not just pharmacy texts, but older volumes, herbalism, toxicology, books with handwritten notes in margins, corrections to published formulas. One note caught her eye. Gelsemium elegans, beautiful killer. Paralysis in small doses, death in large, but combined with... The rest was smudged. She cross-referenced with her grandmother's journal, found the missing piece, a common plant that grew wild in Colorado, one that, when properly prepared, could turn Gelsemium from killer to teacher. "Temporary paralysis," she whispered. "Just enough to..." Footsteps on the stairs. Her grandmother appeared, carrying another cup of tea. "You found it," she said, not a question. "Is this what you did when they tried to revoke your license?" Her grandmother smiled. "I helped women who had no other choice. Poor women. Desperate women. And yes, when men tried to stop me, I made sure they understood the consequences. Did you ever? Kill no. That's not our way. We teach lessons. We balance scales. We protect those who can't protect themselves." She handed Mackenzie the tea. It tasted different, sharper, electric. "Drink. You'll need steady hands for what comes next." Over the following days, Mackenzie learned how to identify plants by touch, how to extract essences without modern equipment, how to calculate dosages based on body weight, metabolism, drug interactions. "Bryce uses Adderall," she told her grandmother. "High doses, every day. Dangerous boy. Such drugs change the blood, make it hungry for more. Whatever you give him will hit harder, last longer." Good. They worked in secret. Mackenzie went to school, endured the whispers, the pointed fingers, the replay videos of her humiliation. But she also watched, learned schedules, found weaknesses. The lacrosse team used the same locker room every day. Same hand sanitizer dispenser that nobody ever checked. Same routine before practice. "How long will it last?" Mackenzie asked, holding the vial of clear liquid she'd prepared. 6 hours for a normal person," her grandmother said. "For someone flooding their system with stimulants, could be 8, could be 12. depends on how much poison they've already put in themselves. Mackenzie thought of the toilet water, of the taste that still woke her up at night, of the video that had reached 1,000 views. "I want them to understand," she said, "what it feels like to be helpless, to have your body betray you, to know that everyone's watching and nobody's helping." Her grandmother touched her cheek. "Then you know what to do." The next morning, Mackenzie woke at 4, dressed in dark clothes, took the vial from its hiding place. School was empty except for one janitor, but not just any janitor, Mr. Walker, who'd started 3 months ago, who always seemed to be around when Bryce made his deals, who had eyes that saw too much and said too little. He watched her enter through the side door. Their eyes met. He nodded once and turned away. The locker room smelled like sweat and arrogance. Mackenzie found the sanitizer dispenser, unscrewed the top, poured in her creation. The liquid mixed seamlessly, colorless and odorless. She thought she'd feel guilty or scared. Instead, she felt something her mother must have felt, something her grandmother knew well: power. 3 o'clock. Practice time. Mackenzie positioned herself where she could watch without being seen. The team filed in, Bryce loudest of all, bragging about a party, a girl, another conquest. They stripped, changed, used the sanitizer. 20 minutes passed. Normal practice, normal drills. Then Hunter stumbled, caught himself, stumbled again. "Dude, you okay?" someone asked. Hunter tried to answer. His legs buckled. He fell hard, face hitting the turf. "What the hell?" Bryce ran over. "Hunter, get up." But Hunter couldn't get up. His legs wouldn't respond. He could move his arms, his head, but from the waist down, nothing. "I can't," Hunter gasped. "I can't feel my legs." Another player fell, then another. Bryce backed away, eyes wide with fear. He made it 3 steps before his own legs failed. The mighty captain of the lacrosse team, the boy who'd made Mackenzie drink toilet water, collapsed like a broken doll. He clawed at the ground, trying to drag himself forward, but his lower body was dead weight. "Help!" he screamed. "Someone help us!" The coach ran onto the field. Other students gathered. Someone called 911 in minutes. The field was chaos. Ambulances, paramedics, 4 paralyzed athletes, and no explanation. Mackenzie watched from her hiding spot. Watched Bryce sob as they loaded him onto a stretcher. Watched him realize what she'd realized in that bathroom. Sometimes your body betrays you. Sometimes everyone watches and nobody helps. Sometimes you're powerless, and all you can do is pray it ends. But for Bryce, this was just the beginning. As the ambulances pulled away, Mr. Walker appeared beside her. Up close, she could see the badge hidden inside his jacket. 3 letters that changed everything. DEA. "Interesting afternoon," he said quietly. "I've been watching Bryce Caldwell for 6 months, building a case. He's going down, but not for this. Unless—" he looked at her meaningfully. "Unless what?" "Unless someone can explain what happened here. Because right now, doctors are going to run tests, find traces, ask questions, and a smart girl like you probably doesn't want those questions answered." Mackenzie's blood chilled. She'd been so careful, but not careful enough. "What do you want?" Walker smiled. "Your help. See, I need evidence of Bryce's dealing. Real evidence, the kind that leads to convictions. Help me get it. And maybe I forget what I saw today. Maybe those test results get lost. Maybe everyone chalks this up to food poisoning. And if I don't, then a lot of people are going to become very interested in you, and your grandmother, and those interesting plants in your garden. Mackenzie thought of her grandmother, of the knowledge passed down through generations, of the careful balance between healing and harming. When? She asked. Tonight. Bryce will be released from the hospital soon. The paralysis is temporary, right? He'll be scared, angry, desperate. That's when people make mistakes. He handed her a card, just a phone number, nothing else. Call me when you're ready to finish this properly, because what you started today, it's bigger than just revenge. It's justice. Walker disappeared into the crowd of onlookers. Mackenzie stood alone, watching the empty field where 4 boys had learned what helplessness felt like. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you're clever. Wait until I can walk again. You're dead. Bryce, already threatening, already planning. Mackenzie looked at the message, then at Walker's card, then at her hands. Steady now, sure of their purpose. She'd tasted humiliation, survived degradation, discovered power in her bloodline. Now it was time to show Bryce Caldwell what happened when you pushed a quiet girl too far. When you woke something that should have stayed sleeping. When you turned a healer into something else entirely. The paralysis would wear off, but what came next would last forever. Mackenzie smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the kind of smile her grandmother wore when she talked about balancing scales. The kind of smile that promised lessons learned in pain. She walked home slowly, savoring the moment. Behind her, news vans arrived. Reporters asked questions. Parents demanded answers. But Mackenzie had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the best revenge isn't breaking someone's body. It's showing them exactly how breakable they've always been. The hospital discharged Bryce at midnight. 8 hours of paralysis, 8 hours of tests that found nothing, 8 hours of pure fear that his golden future was over. Mackenzie watched from across the street as his father's Mercedes pulled away. She knew where they were going, not home, the warehouse district where Bryce kept his real stash. Her phone rang. Walker. He's moving, she said. I know, we're tracking him. You ready for your part? Yes. Good. Remember, we need him to confess, on tape, to someone he trusts. He doesn't trust anyone. He trusts fear, and right now, he's terrified of you. Mackenzie smiled in the darkness. Then let's use that. The next morning, Ridgemont High buzzed with rumors. Food poisoning, steroid overdose, contaminated water. Nobody had answers. The 4 players remained at home, legs working, but weak, afraid to return. Except Bryce. He strutted through the hallways like nothing happened. But Mackenzie saw the truth. How he gripped his locker for balance. How he tested each step. How his eyes darted to every corner, looking for threats. She made sure he saw her, sitting in her usual spot, reading her mother's chemistry book, calm as morning mist. You, he snarled, slamming her book closed. Outside, now! She followed him to the parking lot. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette. What did you do to us? I don't know what you mean. He grabbed her collar, pulled her close. Don't play dumb. The janitor told me, said he saw you that morning. Mr. Walker, Mackenzie kept her voice steady. He must be mistaken. Listen carefully, Bryce hissed. I've got 30 grand worth of product to move this week. College scouts coming Friday. My future planned out. You're not ruining this for me, like you ruined mine. His face twisted. You drank some toilet water. So what? I spent 8 hours thinking I'd never walk again. You know what that's like? Yes, I know exactly what it's like to have your body violated, to be helpless while people watch, to beg for mercy that never comes. Something flickered in his eyes. Not remorse. Fear. Tonight, he said. Midnight. The old pharmaceutical warehouse on Colfax. You're going to give me whatever you used. All of it. Or I release something worse than your grandma's record. He showed her his phone. A video. Her grandmother in her garden, harvesting plants. Normal except for the audio Bryce had added. Spliced recordings making it sound like she was planning to poison the town's water supply. Fake, Mackenzie said. Doesn't matter. By the time anyone figures that out, she'll be in custody. 72-hour hold minimum. You think she'll survive that at her age with her heart condition? Mackenzie's blood froze. How do you know about her heart? Same way I knew about your allergy. Money buys access. Now, midnight, come alone. Bring the formula. He flicked his cigarette at her feet and walked away. Mackenzie called Walker immediately, told him everything. Perfect, he said. This is what we needed. He's scared enough to make mistakes. He wants me alone in an abandoned warehouse. That's not a meeting. That's a murder. You won't be alone. We'll have agents positioned everywhere. All you need to do is get him talking. Get him to admit to the dealing. We'll handle the rest. And my grandmother already has protection. Has since you called me. That evening, Mackenzie prepared carefully. Her grandmother watched from the doorway. You don't have to do this, she said. Yes, I do. It ends tonight. Her grandmother handed her a small vial, clear liquid. Insurance. Breathe it. If things go wrong, it'll buy you time. What is it? Something your mother created. We called it ghost breath. Slows your heartbeat. Makes you appear dead for 3 minutes. She used it once to escape a very bad man. Mackenzie pocketed the vial, hugged her grandmother tight. Be careful, child. The cornered wolf bites deepest. 11:45. The warehouse district looked like a graveyard of Denver's industrial past. Broken windows, rusted doors, perfect place for dark business. Mackenzie entered through the loading dock. Her footsteps echoed in the empty space. Moonlight filtered through holes in the roof, creating pools of silver between shadows. Right on time, Bryce emerged from behind a pillar. Not alone. Hunter flanked him, still limping. 2 other lacrosse players behind them. Did you bring it? Mackenzie held up a bottle. Dark glass, anonymous label. Throw it over, Bryce ordered. First, delete the video of my grandmother. He laughed. You're not in charge here. He nodded to Hunter. Search her. Hunter approached. Roughly patted her down. Found nothing else. Mackenzie had counted on this. The real weapon wasn't in a bottle. She's clean, Hunter reported. Good. Now, the formula. Mackenzie tossed the bottle. Bryce caught it, examined it by phone light. How does it work? Alkaloid extract. Targets the lumbar nerve cluster. Temporary paralysis of lower extremities. You learned this from books, from my mother's research. She was developing it as an anesthetic alternative before she died. Bryce pocketed the bottle. Useful. Maybe I'll add it to my product line. Imagine paralysis on demand. Bet some people would pay huge for that. There it was. The confession Walker needed. Mackenzie touched her collar, activating the wire. Speaking of your product line, she said carefully, how do you move so much without getting caught? Bryce's eyes narrowed. Why do you care? Because if I'm going to keep quiet, I need to know what I'm protecting. He considered this. Pride won over paranoia. 23 regular buyers, all verified, all rich enough to pay triple street value. Their parents think they're buying study aids. I provide receipts from a fake tutoring company. Smart. How much? 50 grand monthly, sometimes more during finals. Been running it for 18 months. By graduation, I'll have enough to buy my way into any college. What about Mr. Walker? He seems suspicious. Bryce scoffed. That old janitor, he's nobody. Probably too drunk to remember what he saw anyway. A door slammed somewhere in the warehouse. Everyone tensed. What was that? Hunter whispered. Wind, Bryce said, but his voice cracked. Check it out. Hunter limped toward the sound, disappeared into shadows. You know what your problem is. Bryce turned back to Mackenzie. You think you're special. Think because you paralyzed us. You've got power, but there's something you don't understand. He pulled out a gun. Small, silver, real. I've been selling to judges' kids, cops' kids, mayor's nephew. You think they'll let me go down? Think they'll risk their precious families being exposed? Mackenzie's heart hammered. This wasn't part of the plan. So here's what happens, Bryce continued. You're going to write a suicide note, confessing to poisoning the team, saying you couldn't live with the guilt. Then you're going to take your own medicine. Paralyzed girl found dead in warehouse. Tragic but neat. You'll never get away with it. Watch me, Hunter screamed from the darkness. Not a normal scream. Pure terror. Hunter, Bryce called. Stop messing around. Silence. Another scream. Different voice, one of the other players. What the hell? Bryce waved his gun toward the shadows. Check it out. The last player shook his head. No way, man. Something's wrong. Footsteps, slow, measured, coming closer. Mr. Walker emerged from the darkness, except he wasn't Mr. Walker anymore. He stood straighter, moved differently, the mask of a tired janitor replaced by something harder. Agent Walker, DEA. He held up his badge. Bryce Caldwell, you're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute, conspiracy, and about 12 other charges we'll sort out downtown. No! Bryce swung the gun toward Walker. Mackenzie moved without thinking. The ghost breath vial shattered against the floor. Clear mist rose, invisible in the darkness. She held her breath, but Bryce was already inhaling, talking, threatening. His words slurred. The gun wavered. His eyes rolled back. He collapsed like his strings were cut. The gun clattered away. Walker checked his pulse. Alive. What was that? Insurance. Mackenzie gasped, finally breathing. 3 minutes until he wakes up. More than enough. Walker spoke into his radio. All units move in. Secure the scene. DEA agents flooded the warehouse. They found Hunter and the others zip-tied but unharmed. Found Bryce's real stash hidden in the walls. $50,000 in cash. 3 kilos of various drugs, and a laptop with every transaction recorded. He documented everything, Walker told Mackenzie as they watched Bryce get loaded into an ambulance. Names, dates, amounts. Kid thought he was untouchable. Was I right about the judges' kids? 3 judges, 2 police captains, the deputy mayor. This is going to shake Denver to its core. Bryce regained consciousness as they loaded him. His eyes found Mackenzie. Pure hatred burned there. This isn't over, he mouthed. But it was. The trial moved fast. 23 students expelled. Dozens of parents arrested. Bryce got 8 years federal time. The Adderall interactions with Mackenzie's formula had caused permanent nerve damage. He'd walk with a cane forever. Piper testified against him for immunity. Told everything. How long the operation ran. Who knew what. How they'd terrorized anyone who might expose them. Mackenzie Sawyer was the bravest of us all, she said on the stand. We tortured her, and she stood up anyway. She saved this school. Principal Harrison resigned in disgrace. The new principal's first act was a school-wide assembly. Mackenzie tried to skip it, but her grandmother insisted. Face them, she said. Show them who you really are. The auditorium fell silent when Mackenzie entered. 1,000 students watching. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Soon, the entire school was on its feet. She stood on stage, overwhelmed. The principal handed her an envelope. Full scholarship to University of Colorado's pharmacy program, she announced, funded by an anonymous donor who was impressed by your unique problem-solving skills. Mackenzie knew it was Walker, a thank you for the biggest bust of his career. I don't need to make a speech, Mackenzie said into the microphone, but I want to say one thing. Power isn't about being strong or popular or rich. It's about choosing to stand up when everyone wants you to stay down. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. She looked directly at the remaining lacrosse team. Remember that. The applause followed her out, but Mackenzie didn't care about being popular. She had work to do. That night, she sat with her grandmother in their garden. The plants grew thick and wild, hiding secrets in every leaf. Your mother would be proud, her grandmother said. You used the gift wisely. I wanted to hurt them worse, Mackenzie admitted. Make the paralysis permanent. Make them suffer like I did. But you didn't. That's the difference between poison and medicine, dosage and intent. Grandma. What really happened when they tried to revoke your license, her grandmother smiled. 3 men on the medical board decided a woman shouldn't practice pharmacy, said I was too emotional, too unpredictable. And they all developed mysterious allergies. Nothing fatal, just inconvenient. Couldn't work, couldn't focus, had to retire early. The formula burned it after. Some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve. They sat in comfortable silence. The night air smelled like mint and sage and possibilities. I got accepted to a summer internship, Mackenzie said. Pharmaceutical research, developing new anesthetics. Following your mother's path. In my own way, but first, there's something I need to do. The next morning, Mackenzie stood outside the county jail. Bryce was being transferred to federal prison. She'd pulled strings to be there, to see him one last time. He shuffled out in chains, thin now, hollow-eyed. The nerve damage made every step agony. He saw her and stopped. Come to gloat, he asked. No? To forgive? His jaw dropped. What? You're going to spend 8 years thinking about what you did, living with the consequences. That's enough. I'm moving on. I ruined your life. You tried, but all you did was wake something inside me, a power I never knew I had. In a twisted way. I should thank you. I'll get out eventually. Come for you. Mackenzie stepped closer, whispered so only he could hear. No, you won't. Because if you do, what happened in that warehouse will seem like mercy. My grandmother taught me formulas that would make paralysis feel like a blessing. Remember that when you think about revenge. She walked away, didn't look back. Bryce called after her, but his words were wind. 3 months later, Mackenzie started college. New city, new life. But she kept her grandmother's journal, her mother's books. The knowledge that flowed through 3 generations of quiet women who understood the power of plants. Her dorm room had a small window garden. Nothing suspicious, just herbs that looked innocent to untrained eyes. Because Mackenzie had learned the most important lesson. Sometimes the best protection isn't being strong. It's making sure everyone knows what happens when they mistake kindness for weakness. And in a world full of Bryce Caldwells, that knowledge was worth more than gold. The shy girl who once ate lunch alone had become something else. Not a victim, not a hero, a guardian. And heaven help anyone who tried to hurt the innocent on her watch. 5 years later, Mackenzie stood before a lecture hall filled with pharmacy students. Dr. Sawyer now, youngest professor in the university's history. Her specialty, alternative anesthetics, derived from natural compounds. Who can tell me why traditional paralytic agents fail in 10% of patients? She asked. A hand shot up. A quiet girl in the back. Bruises poorly hidden under makeup. Genetic variations in nerve receptors, the girl answered. Excellent. See me after class. Later, in her office, the girl broke down. My boyfriend, he's connected. His father owns half the campus. I can't escape. Mackenzie opened her desk drawer. Inside, rows of small vials, each labeled with her grandmother's careful script. There are 2 types of power, she said. The kind that destroys, and the kind that protects. Which do you want to learn? The girl's eyes widened. You're her, the Ridgemont girl, the one who survived, just like you're going to. Word spread quietly through certain circles. Female students facing harassment. Young women trapped by powerful men. They found their way to Dr. Sawyer's office, left with knowledge, with protection, with hope. The authorities never connected the dots. Why certain predators developed sudden, inexplicable allergies. Why bullies found themselves temporarily paralyzed during crucial moments. Why abusive boyfriends woke up in hospitals, babbling about beautiful plants that whispered their secrets. Mackenzie's grandmother passed peacefully that winter, surrounded by the garden she loved. Her last words, "The gift lives on." At the funeral, Walker appeared, retired now, but still watching. 47 arrests this year, he said quietly, all connected to people who mysteriously fell ill. Strange coincidence. The world is full of strange coincidences, Mackenzie replied. He smiled. Your mother would be proud. Both of them. That night, Mackenzie added a new entry to her grandmother's journal. The torch passes, the knowledge spreads, the quiet ones rise. Because, sometimes, the most dangerous person isn't the one making threats. It's the one making medicine.